This is a big one for perfectionists and for high achievers alike because we feel like we should be able to control everything. We tend to believe that we can fix anything if we just do better, if we just perform better. So it's just a small sidestep to believing that when something has gone wrong, it's because we did something wrong. Or better yet, it's because we didn't do enough of the right thing.
You're listening to the Life Edit Project podcast, where busy, ambitious high achievers get the tools they need to fight perfectionism and overwhelm so they can smash their goals without all the drama. I'm your host, recovering overachiever turned professional life coach, Elizabeth Burrows. Let's get to it.
Good day, good people. Welcome back to the Life Edit Project podcast. This is episode 63. Yeah, it is. And as always, I'm your host and your most favorite life coach on the interwebs, Coach Elizabeth. Today, we're going to be talking about a juicy topic that I think is going to be super helpful to all of you recovering perfectionists out there in my community. But first, I want to give y'all a little reminder that we are nearing the end of season 2 of the show. Now, I think last week I told y'all that there were just 3 weeks left in the season. Well, I changed my mind. So I still have a couple of juicy conversations with some very special guests that I want to bring to you before I wrap the season. And since those conversations aren't ready to drop yet, I've decided to extend the season for a few more weeks until they are. So season 2 will continue through the month of August. It's July. Um, It'll be July 31st when this episode drops. So, season 2 will continue through the month of August, and then the post season festivities, such as they are, will start in the first Wednesday of September. Because hopefully, y'all know Wednesday is podcast day. Wednesdays is when new episodes of this show drops every week. So, be on the lookout for all of that. In the meantime, do us both a favor and get those reviews in. Leave a review for this show. If you leave a 5-star rating and review for the Life Edit Project podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, you will get a chance to be my listener bay of the week, which gets you a very special shout out on a future episode of the show, along with, of course, my undying gratitude. So, yeah, go ahead and do that for me. If you don't know how to leave a review, there are step-by-step instructions for you on my website at lifeeditproject.com/podcast. And of course, I've got that linked up in the show notes for you because I like to make things easy for you. All right. So today we are talking about something that I am calling perfectionist thought errors. So you may have noticed that perfectionism comes up pretty often on this show, and that's because it's something that my coaching clients all struggle with. And it's something that I've struggled with personally. And in many ways, I continue to struggle with this. So it is a very deeply personal topic, and it is always relevant for myself and for all of you, my lovely listeners. Now, I do call myself a recovering perfectionist, not a perfectionist, because I identify more with the work that I've done and the progress I've made to crawl out of the pit of perfectionism. But what I know from my own experiences and what I've learned from coaching over 100 individuals is that perfectionism can be a real problem. We think it's a tool that makes us great. A lot of us even wear our perfectionism like as a badge of honor. We think being a perfectionist means that we're somehow better than people who aren't, right? You know that little sense of pride that you get when you call yourself a perfectionist. But here's the truth. Perfectionism isn't the tool that makes us great. It's usually the obstacle that's standing in the way of our greatness. And one of the things that makes it so hard to get past it is what perfectionism does to your brain. That's why today I want to tell you about three common thinking traps that perfectionists tend to fall into. Because when you're aware of these traps, you'll be better equipped to avoid them. And that's the whole point, right? We're here for solutions. So let's dive in, shall we? Let's go. All right, before we dive into this conversation, let's lay a solid foundation. One really important thing to keep in mind about perfectionism is that perfectionism is not a value, it's a mindset. And what do I mean by that? So it's not a value, as in a moral principle or standard that guides your actions and decisions. Even though when we are in the throes of perfectionism, we can feel like it's a value. We can literally feel like perfectionism is a moral standard, but it's not. Perfectionism is actually a mindset, it is a system of thoughts and beliefs, and they are all based on one underlying foundational belief, which is, you've heard me say this time and time again, the belief that perfect is better than imperfect. And that belief right there, and all of the other thoughts and beliefs that rest on the cornerstone belief that perfect is better than imperfect, they lead to a way of showing up in life and a way of relating to the world around you that creates a certain set of results. Now, depending on your perfectionism personality, this mindset might express itself in your life differently. So, perfectionism might express itself for you as being hyper organized or very tidy or even being highly polished in terms of your personal appearance. Or maybe it looks more like micromanaging, overworking, and obsessing over every detail of even the most mundane events. But here's the thing, even when perfectionism seems to have benefits, the problem is that there are also negative trade offs. And often the trade off is a net negative. Perfectionism costs you more than it benefits you. You lose more than you gain. And that is why I encourage you to disrupt perfectionism wherever it is showing up in your life. One of the ways to do that is to cultivate a different mindset, a more helpful and a more productive mindset, which starts by recognizing and confronting the thoughts and beliefs that you have right now. So, here are three common thought errors that tend to come with the territory of the perfectionist mindset, and I want you to be on the lookout for them. Here we go. Number one, all or nothing thinking. All or nothing thinking. This is a pattern of thinking in extremes, and it usually boils down to some form of good versus bad. And this is a thought error because life is usually just not this clean cut, it's not this binary. All or nothing thinking is sometimes also referred to as black and white thinking because of the extreme contrast, right? But here's what we know about life, it comes in all shades of gray, right? Life is rarely just black or white, just one thing or the other. There are so many different points along the continuum between the two extremes. All or nothing thinking might sound something like this if you are a perfectionist. It might sound like holding yourself to extreme standards. Either I'm a top performer or I'm a failure, right? And we've all had some version of this thought. I'm not going to apply for this award unless I know I can win, right? Because I want it all. I want the award, I want the recognition, or I don't want anything, right? Um, I'm not going to join a gym until I can run a mile on the treadmill without taking a break, right? This is a version of all or nothing thinking where we think I need to be able to do everything. I don't want to go through the process of learning or trying or gaining experience. I want to be all in or I'm all the way out. But this type of thinking, this all or nothing thinking, can also reflect on our relationship with others. And sometimes it sounds like extreme judgment or categorizing people in very extreme categories. It might sound something like saying to someone, if you don't agree with me, you're disrespecting me, right? Or if you don't come support me at this event, then you're not really my friend. And right, so sometimes this all or nothing thinking, when we're in relationship with other people, it comes across as setting ultimatums. Either you're in or you're out. Either you're with me or you're against me. Um, Ladies, I know some of us have had thoughts like this if we are dating, right? We're trying to get to know people, we're looking for suitors, right? Eligible bachelors and such. And you might say something to yourself like, if he's not at least 6 feet tall and making six figures, then he doesn't have anything to offer. That is an extreme. That's an extreme standard. That is very much all or nothing. Whenever you are squeezing out the opportunity for there to be something in between, you are engaging in all or nothing thinking. And inevitably, this type of thinking is going to hold you back from something that you want. And that is why it's a thought error. That is why it is a thinking trap. Thought error number two is disqualifying the positive. So, disqualifying the positive is a type of filter that you have on your thoughts where you actively dismiss or explain away all of the good or positive things that are happening. So, people who struggle with perfectionism can be very prone to falling into this particular thinking trap because the situation is almost never perfect. Life is almost never perfect. Okay, so here's what disqualifying the positive might sound like. It often sounds like, yes, but. Yes, I won that bowling game, but I just got lucky when I bowled a couple of strikes. Or it might sound like, yes, I got the job, but there were only two other applicants. So it's really not that impressive. Or maybe it sounds like, yeah, I look cute today, but this is a really old dress and I need a fresh hairdo, right? So maybe I don't really look that cute. Or maybe if you're an entrepreneur, it sounds like, yeah, I made some money in my business, but I'm not making six figures. So am I really successful? Right? So disqualifying the positive is a thought error that I have seen and corrected in so many of my clients. And I want you to be on the lookout for this one too, because I guarantee it is showing up somewhere in your life. Why? Because as long as the situation is less than perfect, you are going to find a reason to tell yourself that the progress that you've made isn't enough. Thought error number three is personalization. Personalization. So, this one is a pattern of thinking where you unfairly attribute personal responsibility, i.e., blame, for things that you don't actually control. And this is a big one for perfectionists and for high achievers alike because we feel like we should be able to control everything. We tend to believe that we can fix anything if we just do better, if we just perform better. So it's just a small sidestep to believing that when something has gone wrong, it's because we did something wrong. Or better yet, it's because we didn't do enough of the right thing. But that is not necessarily true, right? Because you can't control everything. Not everything is up to you. Here is what personalization might look like or sound like in your life. If you're a parent, you might have a thought that sounds something like this: my kid got sick because I'm not a good enough mom. I wasn't taking good enough care of them. When the fact is, kids just get sick. Everybody gets sick, right? Germs are a part of life. Sickness is a part of life, it's just a part of the human experience. Also, no matter how clean you are, kids are disgusting. Even your kids. Kids are little germ factories and they're gross and they put things in their mouths and they have no respect for personal space and they sneeze in your open mouth when you're leaning in for a kiss, right? They are so super gross. Kids gonna get sick. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong. um, Personalization might also sound like in a relationship, my partner left me because I'm not lovable. When in actuality, even if your partner leaves you because they no longer love you, that does not mean that you are not lovable, right? You don't get to take responsibility for someone else's feelings, even in a relationship that you are half of. Their feelings are not up to you. And just because you feel like you are to blame does not mean that you are to blame. It also doesn't even have to mean that anything has gone wrong. Sometimes relationships end even when it's not something that we like. Personalization might also sound something like this in a friendship. Um, if I were a better friend, my homegirl over here wouldn't be depressed. She wouldn't be battling such severe depression. The truth might be that as a friend, you have the ability to lend some support to someone that might be experiencing depression. But it is not your fault if someone that you love is depressed. That's not how that works. That is not up to you. That is not something that you control. It is not something that you are to be blamed for. And also, just because a condition is less than ideal does not necessarily mean that it is wrong and bad. We might want something different. We might wish the situation were other than it is, but that doesn't make it wrong. So, one of the things that makes these thought errors so tricky is the fact that they're not complete baloney. In psychology, these types of thought errors are actually called cognitive distortions. And I like that word, distortions, because something that's distorted isn't the same thing as something that's completely made up, something that's completely false. And that is what makes these things so tricky. There is a kernel of truth, a little seedling of reality at the center of all of these distortions. At the center of all of these thought errors is something that could be true. So, the key to overcoming these thinking traps isn't to pretend like you're too smart to fall into them. It's to dial up your awareness of them. Take note of which one of these thought errors pops up most frequently in your own life. Notice how they show up for you and in what areas of your life they tend to show up. Maybe you're prone to personalization in your personal relationships, but maybe in your career, it's more all or nothing thinking. That is the problem. Once you can recognize these thought errors, then take the time to note what it is that triggers them. Are there certain situations? Are there certain people? Is it a certain time of day when you're more likely to fall into these thought errors? Once you can recognize these thought errors and once you know what tends to make them show up, you can start looking for them before they happen. You can start anticipating them. And the quicker you are at spotting them, the faster you can be at interrupting these thought patterns before they do too much damage in your life and in your relationships. Now, of course, if you hire me as your personal life coach, I'll give you all kinds of strategies and tools to not just help you spot these thought errors, but to help you correct them and to replace the perfectionist mindset with other thought patterns and other thoughts and beliefs that help you reach your goals more easily. And if that's the kind of support that you want, then we should totally work together. What are you waiting for? Use the link that's in the show notes to book a sales call with me to sign up for my one on one coaching program and stop letting these perfectionist thought errors hold you back. It's time out for that. All right, y'all. That's all for today. I will be back in your ears next week with a fresh episode. Until then, think more imperfect, happy thoughts. All right? Peace.
Hey, thanks Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you have a question or a favorite insight from today's conversation, I would love to hear from you. Send me a message on social media. I'm in all the places. My handle is at Life Edit Project, all one word. And of course, my accounts are linked up in the show notes to make it easy for you. So holla at your girl. I'll be back in your ears next week with a fresh episode. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Life Edit Project podcast wherever you like to listen so that you don't miss a thing. Until then, peace.